The honourable member for Timmins James Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I listened with fascination to my colleague because I'm not sure if he's even aware of what the fundamental issue here is, which was that the foreign worker program was used by RBC, where Canadians were having to train temporary foreign workers and then they were going to outsource them. And, Mr. Speaker, this is a government that should have seen the writing on the wall. There's 300,000 positions being used across Canada. When we have high unemployment right across the country, it's not being used temporarily. We have the situation with HD mining where over 300 Canadians applied for work and every one of them was turned down because they didn't speak Mandarin. They were going to bring in Chinese miners to mine in British Columbia. Now, Mr. Speaker, Canadian miners, and I come from a mining region, Canadian miners have a reputation of being the best experts in the world. They travel all over the world. So if there's a shortage, there needs to be job training, apprenticeships. This is completely lacking from this government. I'd like to ask this member, why has government completely dropped the ball on HD mining, why they haven't seen this coming, and why they're giving us such pitiful excuses now?
The honourable member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, there have been a number of initiatives taken to ensure that those that are from underrepresented groups that I mentioned earlier, for those that need to have their skills upgraded and training, those that need more education, all of these kinds of investments have been undertaken in the budget to improve that Canadians in Canada First have an opportunity for those jobs that exist. But will this member undertake to support those measures, or as opposed to opposing this measure and opposing the budget from time to time? Now, with respect to any abuses of the system, of course we don't want any abuses, and to the extent they are, they will be dealt with. And the minister has clearly indicated that investigation will take place, and those that are abusing the system will be dealt with. And furthermore, the finance minister has indicated a number of improvements in the budget, a number of reforms that would make it better, and I wonder if this member will support that. And secondly, I would ask him to go to Western Canada, to go to my riding, to go to Fort McMurray, to go to places where people have difficulty getting people to do the work that needs to be done, and they've advertised all they can advertise. Speak to them. Speak to the owners that spend late nights trying to cover a number of shifts because they haven't got the employees to do it, whether they're temporary foreign workers or whether they're workers from Canada. They can't find them. They can't fill those positions. Perhaps this member should go out there and visit and find out on the ground why this program is so important to Western Canadians, to other Canadians, including to members of his party who are requesting more numbers of temporary foreign workers to be had in their particular ridings.
Questions and comments? James Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think what's really clear to Canadians is that there are major problems with this temporary foreign worker program. And for the people who are being brought over to Canada, major problems. I've helped small businesses who've utilized the program, who saw people brought in from other countries who were trained up, who ended up taking managerial positions, and they were in fast food positions because with the mining boom, they couldn't find local people. And yet, once they were trained, the government deported them. And industry said to me, why is it that we're creating a disposable class of workers? Now, this is a government that seems to think it's okay to have disposable people. But if we're going to have immigration, and we need immigration in parts of our country where we're growing, that we want to be able to bring in families, we want to have them invest, we want them to go to our schools, we want them to buy houses, we don't want to treat them as though they're just disposable and discarded. But at the same time, we see that this program is being used to undermine wages, and that it's being used so that companies don't need to invest in training. You don't need to have apprentices when you can bring 300,000 people and you can spread them across the country. This is a rip and ship attitude to our economy. And I'd like to ask my honourable colleague, he's been watching the Conservatives all day. They act like rubes at a country fair. They seem to be surprised that there's problems. This has been known. Why has it that this government has done nothing to address the growing abuse of this system?
Honourable Deputy de Saint Léonard.
Honourable Member for Saint Léonard, Saint Michel.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for a question well thought out. A lot of aspects in that question, and obviously I didn't have a chance to address all the points that I wanted to address, and and this is why we're calling for a special committee. And yes, in fact, it's been a huge surprise as to how the Conservatives have been responding. They've been admitting that there's a problem, but they said they've solved the problem, but maybe we'll solve it in the future if we haven't solved it today, and if we haven't solved it with the next budget. We don't really see anything in the budget. All they talk about is training, but training is going to be implemented over the next 2 years. So that's another temporary fix for temporary workers. So there's huge amounts of problem. Everybody that stood up in the House has brought up a different point, and here we are still debating when we should just go straight to the vote and get this committee on board, and let's get working as parliamentarians and let the experts tell us what needs to be done to repair this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and